In a post-apocalyptic world, several kids are playing happily while being overlooked by a guard. Suddenly, a loud noise is heard from the speakers, and the children go into a large building. They are strapped onto chairs, and strange gadgets are placed on their heads. The device produces a loud sound, and the children start screaming. Meanwhile, a man lurks in the shadows, watching the events play out. A large shockwave erupts from the scream and is concentrated into a powerful energy that hits a tower. Then, an earthquake rouses a boy named Jake from his sleep. His mother, Lori, comes into the bedroom and invites him for breakfast. Jake has been having strange nightmares and sees a man in black attacking a tower. If the man succeeds, then fire and destruction will descend on Earth. Each day after his dreams, Jake sketches something on a piece of paper and adds it to his art collection on his bedroom wall. Shortly after, Jake shares his dreams with Lori and his stepfather, Lon, but they all dismiss him. One day at school, a bully approaches Jake and steals his notepad. This angers Jake, and he punches the bully, demanding back his book, but the fight is broken up by a teacher who sends Jake home. Later that day, Jake has an appointment with a therapist. The therapist knows of Jake's dreams and says that dreams are harmless and meaningless. He thinks Jake is having such dooming dreams due to unresolved trauma, because in the previous year, Jake's father had died in a terrible fire. After the session, Jake is on his way home when he sees someone adjusting his face. This reminds him of his nightmares where the bad guys, whom he calls the Tahines, hide their true form by putting on human skin suits. He is so frightened when a homeless man starts talking about the apocalypse, but Jake gets on the bus quickly and goes home. Then he finds his friend Timmy waiting for him. Inside the home, Jake's parents are arguing, but they stop when he comes in. Lori tells him about a special school that handles cases like his, but Jake walks away. As the night goes on, Jake feels guilty for the way he has been stressing his mother. He looks at a newspaper clip of his father's death. He was a firefighter who bravely saved 5 people from a burning building, but he died in the process. Jake removes all the paintings on the wall and hides them in a drawer. He then lies on his bed, convincing himself that his visions are nothing more than dreams. However, as soon as he closes his eyes, Jake has another vision. He sees the man in black burns a man alive after destroying and eliminating a village and its people. Elsewhere, a man named Roland reports to his father, Stephen, that they have failed the mission. Suddenly, they hear something approaching them and take position back to back as they wait for the enemy to appear. The man in black appears and commands Stephen to stop breathing. Roland watches in horror as his father dies. The man in black tells Roland that while his magic doesn't work on him now, it will one day. He walks off, quickly catching a bullet that Roland man fires at him. Then, the vision ends with Jake seeing an abandoned house. As soon as he gets up, Jake sketches Roland, also called the Gunslinger, and the old house. He puts the picture on the internet, hoping that someone recognizes it. Meanwhile, a group of the therapist's assistants goes to take Jake to the clinic because the doctor wants to see him. Jake goes to meet them, but is disturbed to see a scar on the man's neck. He suspects that the people from the clinic are the same evil people he has been seeing in his visions. Jake shares his concerns with his parents, but they don't believe him. Lon wants Jake to stop being selfish and go to the clinic, or else he will forcibly drag him there. The clinic conducts strange experiments on the people admitted there, hoping to cure them neurologically. Suddenly, Jake sees an alert pop up on the screen, as someone has listed the house's address. Jake hugs his mother, saying he loves her. He then takes his drawings and puts them in his backpack. Jake walks out of the room and finds his parents waiting alongside the clinic attendants. He drops his travel bag and says he wants to get his toothbrush from the bathroom. A few minutes later, the clinic lady deduces that Jake wants to escape. They see the door open and find that Jake has run through the window. The lady then asks the man to chase after him. Jake manages to reach the streets and escapes by misdirecting them into the subway. He then goes to the house's location as directed by his post. Jake receives a phone call from Lori asking him to come home, but he refuses to go home without answers. Jake finds the house abandoned and enters the house through the window. He starts investigating, not seeing the wooden planks move. Jake finds a screen, and an automated voice instructs him to enter his destination address. Without giving it much thought, Jake presses the number he has seen in his visions. Suddenly, something on the other wall opens up, revealing a high-tech portal. This wows Jake, and he throws his shoe through to confirm it. He goes toward the portal, but the floor crumbles, and a wood monster tries to flatten him. Jake yells at the beast to let go, and it crumbles, making Jake grab his backpack and rush into the portal. He falls into a desert-like world with several moons and and is so impressed by this planet that he doesn't worry when the portal closes. Jake puts on his shoe and starts walking, hoping to find anyone. It turns out that the man in black from Jake's dreams is real. He is a sorcerer named Walter. Jake is currently on a post-apocalyptic planet called Midworld where Walter lives. Meanwhile, Walter gets into his operation base and learns that there has been an unauthorized entry into the Midworld from Earth. He asks for another portal on Earth to be opened so he can investigate and find who the intruder is. Elsewhere, Jake is still walking, but now he is cold, tired, and thirsty. He sees something glow in the rugged mountains and walks there. He finds a small fire that has been recently put out and a thermos flask that has reflected sunlight. Jake grabs the flask and drinks all the water in it. Suddenly, someone points a gun at Jake's head. He slowly turns around and recognizes the stranger as Roland. He suspects that Walter is using Jake to get him. He holds Jake on a cliff end, threatening to push him down unless he talks. Jake explains everything, including his dreams of Gunslinger and the Man in Black. He also shows Roland the sketches he has made. From one of the sketches, Roland finds Walter's base. He tells Jake to get ready as they will be walking to the base and mentions that there are no gunslingers anymore since Walter eliminated them all. Walter travels to Earth and gets into the house with the portal. He finds a shard of wood with blood on it. He takes this to the Tahins. One of them tastes the blood and confirms it belongs to a young human boy of pure power. Walter realizes that the boy is a psychic, as his scream executed the house demon, referring to the house monster that attacked Jake earlier. Walter finds the clinic attendants who had lost Jake, and they give him Jake's information. Walter commands them to kill each other and asks the audience to relax and enjoy the show. Back in the Midworld, Jake complains of hunger. He wants to eat some berries, but Roland warns him against that. Soon, Jake finds himself all alone in what appears to be once a children's park. Suddenly, Roland appears and pulls Jake down so that several Tahins walking a few yards away don't see him. Roland has caught a rabbit, and he shares this with Jake. While eating, Jake asks him about the time he saw him fighting. Roland explains that it was the last fight, and he had lost his father, Stephen, that day after Walter caused him to suffocate. Jake draws a circle on the ground, partitioned into several parts and with a stick in the center. Jake thinks it's useless, but Roland says it's a map of the universe. The stick in the middle is the Dark Tower, which emits power that keeps the universe and all the worlds in it safe. If the Dark Tower is destroyed, then the dark beings will enter into the world and bring death and doom. Later that night, Roland thinks of abandoning Jake so he can continue on his mission to execute Walter alone. He packs his stuff, but stops when an earthquake occurs, and a powerful beam of light is seen in the sky. This awakens Jake too, and he can hear people screaming in the distance. Roland tells Jake to sleep as they have a long day the following morning. Jake is woken up by something that draws him into a clearing, where Jake finds his father. Meanwhile, his father explains that he is dead on Earth, but he is alive on this one. He stretches out his hand, asking Jake to come home. At the same time, Roland wakes from a nightmare where Walter says that anyone who walks with him will die. He finds Jake missing and rushes to find him. He sees Jake just as he touches his father's hand. Roland shoots at Jake's father, causing him to transform into an ugly red monster. Roland shoots the monster several times, ignoring it when it takes Steven's form. He explains to Jake that the demon took on his father's form as it could sense his loss. Another monster attacks the two. It traps and hurts Roland while it chases after Jake. Luckily, Roland retrieves a dagger and frees himself. He then takes his weapon and fires at the demon, saving Jake's life. On Earth, Jake's parents are worried about him. They get back to the house after filing multiple missing persons reports. They are startled to find Walter in the place making dinner. Lon tries to catch him, but Lori recognizes him as the Man in Black from Jake's drawings. Walter quickly asks Lon to stop breathing, and he collapses on the floor. He then asks Lori to stay quiet and directs him to Jake's room. Here, Walter accesses Lori's memories to see what drawing Jake made. He realizes that Jake is a special boy and torments Lori, asking her how bad of a parent she is for not believing in her son and sending him to a psychiatric hospital instead. Walter travels back to the base and shares this information with his two trusted assistants. He knows that Jake is in Midworld and is looking for Roland. Walter wants the assistants to find Jake, as his psychic power can bring down the Dark Tower alone. After a while, Roland and Jake reach a small village. Roland demands to see the most powerful seer and healer in the village. A woman named Ara steps forward and receives them. She looks at Roland's wound, the one he sustained from the monster attack. Sadly, it isn't healing as fast as Roland thought it would and appears to be spreading. Roland then shows Ara Walter's base, asking her where it is. She talks with Jake, claiming that his power is greater than any she has ever seen before. He is excited to hear Ara's voice in his head. He shares his visions with her, and she explains to Roland that the base is a 6-month journey on foot. Jake figures out that Walter must have a portal on Earth that will take them directly to his base. That evening, several people express their concerns against using the portal, as this will enable the Tahins to find them. However, Roland says that so long as the darkness is still out there, their village will always be in danger. Soon, the village leader and his men prepare the portal. Sadly, opening the portal leads the Tahins right into the village. They start attacking the villagers while cutting off the power supply. This makes the portal lose power, and Roland goes to help the villagers. He asks Jake to hide while he protects a family. After that, a mother explains how the attacker wanted to take their son. Roland realizes that Walter knows about Jake and is after him. Elsewhere, Walter is monitoring the attack on a vision globe. He spots Jake and directs the Tahins to get him. Jake is kidnapped by one of them, and Roland's body is shutting down because of the monster's poison. However, he concentrates his power and hears Jake being dragged into a field. He shoots in the direction, correctly hitting the attacker in the head. Roland and Jake reunite just as the portal aligns with Earth. Ara sees them off and warns Jake against using his power since it can be used to track him. The two reach Earth. The first order of business is to get Roland into the hospital so his wound can be treated. Roland is impressed by how quickly the drugs work at the hospital, and he wants to know when he can go. When Roland is told that he will stay in the hospital overnight, Roland removes the needles, injecting medicine into his body, and asks Jake to get his guns. Jake takes Roland to the streets, where he first sees the man who talked about the apocalypse. Jake believes the man is one of the people who Walter kidnapped from their home world. We find out that Walter kidnaps people and kids in the hope of finding someone whose power can destroy the tower. Jake uses his power to link with the man telepathically and learns the man's home location, but Jake wants to go to his house and tell his mother that he is okay. Upon arrival at his building, Jake meets his friend Timmy, who says that his parents haven't been home since the previous day. Jake runs to his house with Roland following him. He finds Lon's dead body and rushes into the bedroom. He is devastated to find a burn mark on the floor, and the portrait suggests that Lori has been burned to death. Jake uses his power to see what happened, and he cries in pain. On the wall, Walter had left a greeting. Roland feels Jake's pain and warns him against using his power to avoid being found. He carries Jake outside the house and onto a roof, and Jake gives him the location of Walter's base. He then walks away, but Roland follows him and decides to teach Jake a few combat skills. Roland and Jake go to a weapons store to get the necessary ammunition to fight Walter. After getting the weapons, Jake exits the store, but Roland stays back when he hears Walter call out his name. Roland shoots at Walter, but he is using a globe to astral project himself. The bullet causes the shop to shut down, locking Jake out. Roland asks Jake to hide while he looks for an exit. Walter commands the store owner to shoot at Roland. This makes Roland shoot the owner's shoulder to stop his attacks. Walter starts mocking Roland, asking him whether he has told Jake the truth about how people who walk with him always die. Roland tells Walter that if he has something to say, he should face him man to man, not hide behind his magic. Meanwhile, Jake finds so many Tahins looking for him. He is kidnapped and calls Roland for help. Roland picks this up with his superhuman hearing. Walter also hears this and quickly ends the projection so he can get Jake. Walter and his assistants take Jake into the operating base, which holds a huge machine. Walter tells the Tahins that Roland is coming, so they should be ready. He also wishes them a happy apocalypse. Roland gets to the base and starts eliminating the Tahins one at a time. He is greatly overpowered, but he uses his hearing skills to determine where each attacker is. He then fires back with extraordinary skill and precision, easily eliminating all the Tahins and reopening the portal. On the other side, Walter's assistant straps Jake onto the contraption. Jake resists, causing Walter to tap into his anger by bringing up Lori's death. This plan works as the anger blinds Jake enough for his power to seep through into the machine. Roland is about to get into the midworld when Walter's assistant attacks him. The two fights for a while, but Roland gets the upper hand and eliminates him. He realizes the world is crumbling since Jake's power has started destroying the Dark Tower and the darkness is creeping into Earth. However, the technician realizes that Jake is using his powers to keep the portal open. Realizing that Roland will be a problem, Walter steps out of the machine and encounters Roland. Roland shoots at him, but he uses his magic to defend himself. He uses some glass shards to cut Roland's hands, limiting his use of weapons. Walter then uses a metal rod to hit Roland and crushes him with cement blocks. Walter looks back at Jake and then creates a ball of fire on his hand, intending to burn Roland the same way he had burned Lori. However, Jake focuses his mind and starts communicating telepathically to Roland. He chants the gunslinger's mantra, to aim with his eyes, not his hand, to shoot with his mind, not his hand, and to kill with his heart, not his gun. Roland hears this and utters the words with Jake. He grabs his gun and fires 2 bullets. They collide with each other, and one pierces Walter's heart. Roland shoots him severely, ending him with a bullet in his head. He then shoots another bullet that frees Jake, and the two reunite. Meanwhile, Roland's last bullet destroys the machine, making the Dark Tower safe, and the chaos on Earth ends. Roland and Jake go into the street and see many people being helped. The duo gets some sandwiches, and Roland explains that he has to leave. Jake understands this, but he is shocked when Roland asks him to go with him. He says that Jake has nothing tying him to Earth, and the world out there needs him. Jake excitedly says yes, and the two walk off with Roland calling Jake a gunslinger. After a while, the two get into a portal and travel to an unknown land, hopefully to save as many lives as possible. Thanks for tuning in. A thumbs up would be amazing because I've got some bills to pay.
Back in my bag and I ain't gotta brag, I do this shit for real. When we was down and we had nothing, we had to share a meal. We put the shit in overdrive with no steering wheel.